Thank you to former Congressman Pittenger for welcoming me onto this panel. It is an honor to be on the same stage as Dr. Dasgupta, not to mention Mr. Strand, whose reports I've read. And I'm here as a diplomat. I'm not an engineer, but I do have a background in telecommunications policy, and I understand the complex issues that policymakers are facing. The Biden administration views 5G security as a high priority. These mobile networks will touch every aspect of our lives, including critical infrastructure, such as transportation, electrical distribution, healthcare, and more. And it's not surprising that so many international fora, such as this one, are talking about 5G, because the security of 5G can only be addressed through a global approach. Every country must make its own decisions about how to protect its national and economic security, as the United States has done, but we must consider how our systems are connected on a global framework. But I presume that if you're here today, you do know something about what the stakes are for telecommunications security. And so today I want to talk about 3 responses that 5G requires of policymakers. First, long-term policy planning. Second, fostering of a vibrant and diverse supply chain. And third, defending against authoritarian governments. And what I really hope you'll come away with today is that your country can take advantage of the economic potential of 5G without sacrificing privacy or national security. So first, long-term policy planning. I want to address the idea of 5G readiness. Some of you may be thinking, my country isn't really ready for 5G. We haven't finished rolling out 4G, and we don't have the demand, and we'll deal with these decisions as they come up. But I'm certainly not here to rush something that market conditions don't support. But in my view, policy planning for 5G should begin long before implementation of 5G. And the reason for that is that network choices being made by mobile operators today are being done with 5G in mind. This is because 4G equipment can generally be upgraded to support 5G through software updates and patches, which we'll talk about more later. So whatever equipment is being used now to expand 4G coverage is likely going to end up part of the 5G network in your country. So even if your operators aren't interested in launching 5G pilot projects right now, they are actually investing in the network now. And in fact, I noted earlier this month the US signed an MOU with Albania, and it is on 4G and 5G security. And this shows, I think, that they are linked. So also the complexity and scale of 5G networks is going to require a lot more knowledge and capacity at the policy level than 3G or 4G did. And a lot of this is because of the cross-cutting nature of 5G applications that we expect and the host of related policy subject areas. So if you are in that situation, having time to plan before implementation of 5G is a huge opportunity. The next generation of wireless technology is something we really need to get right. Future home appliances, smart manufacturing, electrical grids, it's all going to be on top of these networks. And the global economic potential is also staggering. Just within the United States, we expect at least 3 million new jobs. So we hope that all countries can take advantage of this economic potential, and we believe that they can do so without sacrificing their personal privacy or economic or national security. So the second thing I wanted to talk about is that 5G requires policymakers to encourage a vibrant and diverse supply chain. What we are used to right now is an end-to-end proprietary technology model that really is only offered currently by 3 major equipment providers. So the same vendor provides all equipment and software, including the core network, the switching, and the last mile radio equipment. And this is an absolutely viable model, and there are trusted sources that offer this model, but it's worth examining in the 5G context. First, do we really want there to be only 3 major competitors running the technology behind our wireless networks, which are so vital? And second, 5G is a little different. 5G is more software-centric than what we are used to. Software-defined networking and network virtualization essentially underpin the advance of 5G. But this also means that vendors who supply the technology are in greater control. So software-defined networking allows the vendor to deploy at any time new upgrades or patches or feature updates to the core. And that means that they could introduce malicious code or skim data at any time. And this is the scary part, is that it will be very difficult to know when or if that has happened. So the operators will have a much greater task to maintain visibility and control of these networks. Verifying code continually as an operator is prohibitively expensive, almost. So these are some new challenges that the telecom industry is facing. And a single vendor supplier increases the security risk because other vendor systems can't detect inconsistencies. So first off, this is a clear reason to only work with vendors who are really trustworthy, obviously. But it's also why the United States is so interested in encouraging open and interoperable approaches to network architecture. These approaches have the potential to increase the number of trustworthy suppliers in the market and to lower costs and improve security. Some of these new solutions exist, one of which is ORAN, and Mr. Strand will explain in a moment, I'm sure, that vendor diversity is not a magic solution, which it's not. But competition is good. And so the United States is considering ways to help encourage more innovation and competition in this field, such as transparent financing that creates a level playing field, or international spectrum harmonization so that new entrants have the benefit of greater economies of scale. Breaking down these barriers to new innovations, new market entrants is really an international project. And so we hope you'll join us in thinking through this and on working on this. And finally, 5G requires policymakers to defend against authoritarian governments. So the stakes for 5G security are simply higher. 5G has the potential to integrate us with our environment and with each other in ways that we are still only beginning to imagine. Networks being compromised or going down would have a catastrophic effect even today. We've seen some small examples of critical infrastructure being attacked in the United States recently. But the impact will only increase as the lines blur between the physical world and the virtual. And what if the network is compromised and your population's genetic data is shared with certain actors, or your power grid shuts down? So these are real considerations for the future. And so with these increasing stakes, national measures need to be crafted to mitigate major security risks from high-risk suppliers, regardless of their national origin, and to preclude the suppliers from providing equipment and software and services to 5G networks. I say regardless of national origin, and I mean that, but the United States is especially concerned about the dangers of installing networks that can be manipulated or disrupted by authoritarian governments that have no regard for privacy or human rights. Xi Jinping has stated publicly that the Chinese Communist Party must increase leadership over the private sector and make it follow the party. Chinese vendors such as Huawei and ZTE are beholden to the whims of the PRC. They don't have any judicial recourse. And this control is spelled out in the Chinese national intelligence law, that they must cooperate in national intelligence work. So promises made by Huawei or ZTE that they will not cooperate with the PRC are just simply promises that they cannot keep. And we will not know what data they will be compelled to turn over in the future. These concerns are unfortunately not hypothetical. Huawei has been implicated in PRC-backed espionage and has stolen intellectual property from foreign competitors. So in the quest to secure networks from untrusted vendors, there are a variety of approaches that have been taken by our allies. Some governments have implemented new legislation, others have used spectrum auction rules or investment review mechanisms or a combination of all of the above. But whatever mechanism is right for your situation and your legal system, something that is essential is that national measures to address 5G security risk should take into account not just technical risks and mitigation, but also geopolitical factors, such as the model of governance in the country where an equipment vendor is headquartered, and whether there is a risk of undue government influence over that vendor. So I would recommend a couple of resources You may know about some of them already. One of them is the Prague Proposals, which were the result of a gathering of more than 30 countries hosted by the Czech Republic in 2019. And what these do are they capture a key criteria that governments should consider when evaluating 5G vendors. So as you're drafting legislation, these criteria can help you define what is a trusted vendor. And the second Prague conference last year actually launched a huge repository of resources on this. And another great resource is the EU 5G Security Toolkit. The EU is taking 5G security really seriously and has published a set of recommendations for individual member states for them to evaluate their risk and then respond to cybersecurity risks in their 5G infrastructure. So the toolbox specifically acknowledged that high-risk suppliers should face additional restrictions, such as exclusion from 5G networks. So to conclude, I want to reiterate that the vision of the United States is to see a vibrant digital economy worldwide that enables all citizens to benefit from the promise of fifth-generation wireless networks. And to benefit from that promise, countries and citizens need to be able to trust that 5G equipment and software will not threaten national security, personal privacy, or human rights. So that trust cannot exist where providers are subject to an authoritarian government with no independent judiciary. This is a huge opportunity for policymakers now to take action and get it right for decades to come and for the next generation of wireless technology. And from the perspective of the United States, as I said, we see this as a global challenge that needs global solutions and cooperation. And so we would welcome your country's cooperation in our support of 5G trust principles and of open competitive markets and market-based standards. Thank you.